Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at NECA's Aliens RHINO Alien, which is one that I was actually very excited for. You guys know I'm not a huge Xenomorph guy. I'm much more of on the Predator side of that whole situation. So you guys can go ahead and leave all the negative comments down there now, all you Alien fans. I don't have anything against Xenomorphs. They're just less specifically interesting to me. However, this kind is right up my alley, which is opposite of how I normally feel about things. Like when they just come up with things to make toys of, it doesn't bother me, but I don't care about it until you're talking about Xenomorphs. I love these kind of Xenomorphs. This one in particular, my favorite design Xenomorph ever, by far, without a doubt. And it happens to be a solid enough figure, so we're going to get into that. I'd like to know how you guys feel about that. Before we even get into anything else, do you guys like the toys that are just made to be toys, or do you guys only care about the toys that are actually an item that exists outside of the toy, if that makes any sense? So let me know about that in the comment section below. But otherwise, there's some stuff to talk about, so let's go ahead and get them off the stand and take a closer look. Now, this guy stands just about, let's say 27 centimeters in this pose, which is kind of arbitrary, but I'll explain that in a second. About 11 inches, and this is a mostly upright pose, give or take. Now this guy, if you noticed on the packaging, or if you know the character in general, is not really meant to be up like this. He's meant to be on all fours in like a rhino pose, because it's the RHINO Alien. But I wanted to leave him like this because this is how I would pose him, I think, on the shelf, just because he's so intimidating looking, being all hulky and massive, and he's just ginormous, and I really like him this way, and it's mine, so I'll pose it how I like. But if you do want to pose him down, hunched over, obviously you lose some size. But that's what he is if he was like a regular action figure. And just for some comparison's sake, here's one of their regular sized figures up against him. That's one of their 7-inch Marine guys. I'll be reviewing him in a second. The Xeno is humongous. Now do keep in mind, this does come at a higher price point. I think it's $35. It's essentially an all new sculpt, and so that obviously lends itself to the price point. Before we go any further, I do want to point out I'm filming in a slightly different setup today, and I'm planning on leaving it this way, so let me know what you guys think. You'll notice the lighting differences in the background are a little bit harsher, and we have a greater depth of field and a slightly different contrast for the rest of for like the main subject of the video. So let me know if you noticed it even, or if you care, or if it matters or anything like that. If you have any comments, I'd be happy to hear them. Okay, so size-wise, this guy's big. As far as aesthetics go, he's made out of translucent orange plastic, which is awesome, and then they did all their normal paintwork on top of him. So from the front, it's almost hard to tell that he's translucent, except for the light spots where it kind of pokes through, which is what I think they were going for, and it looks pretty good for the most part. It's the same level of paint detail that you get normally from NECA, with basically a whole lot of dry brushing of black, silver, and gunmetal. There's a little bit of other coloring, we'll talk about that up here, but that's essentially what you're going to get. Now as you rotate him around, you're going to notice a lot more orange. I assume that's intentional, because as you keep rotating him around, you'll notice he has almost no paint on there. Again, intentional, I assume, and so I can't really fault them for that, because it's a choice they made, and I'm assuming it's a choice they made to allow the light to come through. Essentially the same thing as eyes on a Transformer with the light piping. They wanted the light to come through, which obviously all my light is in the front right now, so it's not having that effect, but that was their purpose. If they did this black paint everywhere back here, you wouldn't have the orange lighting up anywhere near as much, so I can't really fault them for that. Maybe a wash on there, just a little bit of something would have looked better, but either way, I'm okay with it. I don't plan on posing him like this. I plan on posing him facing me, so I'm okay with that. And if you did throw a light behind him, it would work. I don't have one to do that with, but it would work. I tested it out before I was filming. So yeah, I think the aesthetics are great on this thing. I love the sculpt. I love the glowy orangeness of him. It's all very, very nice. So aesthetically, I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10. Very well done. As far as accessories go, there aren't any. Not really anyway. We do get a comic book. It's one of these little tiny like 4-inch comic books, so if you like those, cool. If not, then it doesn't really count. We do have the removable helmet, which I know it's not a helmet, but we do have that. So you do have more glowy orange inside, a little bit of like a light orange paint job. This doesn't really snap on. It does have its own paint work, by the way. It just kind of sits over that and just kind of sits in place. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it has something to do with the character in the comics. I guess it originally was in comics, or maybe they made comics to go with it. I don't know. All I know is there's a comic here, so you guys can tell me about that. But either way, it is it is what it is. So that's it for accessories. So 0 out of 10, I guess. You could give it a 1 if you want. I don't know that anybody cares about accessories for a Xenomorph anyway. Now, as far as articulation goes, the head is on a hinge, and at least a straight peg. It's probably technically a ball peg, but you can make it look all the way up. That way when he leans forward and is hunched down, he's actually looking forward, so that's pretty nice. It does have pretty good range. A little bit of stiffness in there, but that's okay. You do have your full rotation like this. No leaning. That's why I say I don't think it's actually a ball peg, even if it technically is. It doesn't function as one. Of course, we do have the hinged jaw, which is a necessity at this point for the NECA Xenomorphs, so that's pretty good. I do like the fact that it doesn't look bad when it's not in use, so that's pretty cool. Sometimes you get a big gap there. You do have the internal jaw, which is not too hard to get out of there. You just reach in there with your fingernail and pull down on the bottom part, and you can get it out, so that's pretty good. I like that. For the torso, it's very similar to the head. We do have a big hinge. I have it mostly forward right now, and I think it's a hinge. It could be another ball peg combination, but then you can lean him back pretty far as well, and that is, again, so that you can get him in that forward pose once you have him hunched, which you'll see toward the end. But they did continue the sculpt work all the way through, of course, and the paint work, so that is good. That piece does pop off if you whack it with your hand like I just did, but like I said, it doesn't really snap on, so just be aware of that. You do get rotation on here, so that's pretty good. You do get a little bit of leaning, though not a whole lot, so be aware of that. It's relatively limited, even though it has a lot of range front and back. For the shoulders, it's your standard Xeno shoulders. Not a whole lot of range because of all the stuff going on, but you have your, essentially it's a swivel hinge. So you get a little bit like that, and you get your full rotation this way. That's all fine. Not loose, but definitely not as tight in some positions as I would prefer. You have a double jointed elbow, which does rotate above the elbow in the bicep because there's no bicep swivel up here. Those joints work just fine. No problems there. Wrist is a swivel and a hinge. And then you have another hinge for the fingers so you can put him in his walking pose. Probably something more along the lines of... Why is this not... Oh, there we go. So you can put him out like that. Something like that. You could do that. Okay, we'll get to that later. For the hips, we do have a problem here because this guy's big and heavy and his hips are fairly loose. You probably noticed as I was doing the beginning part of the review, he kept leaning forward and tipping. His hips are very, very loose. Not floppy, but just shy of it. So that's definitely an issue. I have been able to balance him okay, but some poses are going to be absolute problems for this guy, so that sucks. But they are your traditional ball hinge, so you have the hinge, which is almost worthless because of these hip pieces. Can't really fault him for that, but that is the case. You have your full swivel here, which is the loose part, and then you have your thigh swivel, which is also loose. That's just not great. That's definitely going to be a problem for posing. For the knee, we have our double jointed knee. This one up here swivels. If you need that, you have that. And then down here, we have another hinge. So the leg collapses fully. No hinge here. This is a fixed piece, which is probably going to be helpful for posing so that you don't have to worry about the digitigrade or digitigrade ankle joint that we had on the Assassin or whatever he was called, Predator. For the foot, we have a swivel and a hinge, which is not too loose. It's pretty stiff, so that's pretty good. So articulation-wise, by the way, no tail. Maybe that's why I like this guy, no real tail. So articulation-wise, other than the loose joints, it's what I would expect. Nothing impressive, but it is satisfactory, so I will give it a 7. And so now it's time for the final verdict. I will show you photos at the end of him posed up in his proper stance. I don't want to waste your time with me doing it on camera right now. But like I said, he does have very loose hips and that will be a problem. So final verdict on this guy is he looks really cool. He's big. Is it a super awesome deal for the price point? Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's not like the best articulation in the world, and we do have some loose issues, and that shoulder keeps getting stuck, but that's not really an issue. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad deal at all. I think it's perfectly fine. I just think it's not... At $35, I would like to not have very loose hips. That seems to be an issue with NECA for about forever now. I would really like them to get that hip situation sorted, but other than that, I am pleased with this figure. I'm going to give it a final verdict of 8 out of 10. It's really cool looking. It's going to look great on a shelf. You will have issues posing it here and there, but it's going to look awesome once you do, and I think you're going to appreciate it for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, and if you haven't subscribed, you might want to, because I have new videos out just about every single day, and thousands of videos already on the channel for the days where I don't have something new. There's always something for you to watch, so make sure you come back for all of that, and in the meantime, keep collecting.